I had nothing, just 127, an eviction notice, and a life that felt like it was falling apart. Then at a dusty auction lot I bought an old car, and what I found inside wasn't meant for me. It was a secret that would change everything I thought I knew about my family, my past and my future. Before we dive in, make sure to join our YouTube family by hitting that subscribe button. And if this story grabs you, drop a like and comment below where you're watching from. I'd love to see it. Now, let's get into the story. I sat on the cracked curb, the cold biting through my thin jacket, staring at the envelope in my hand. 127, that's all. I had, after the eviction notice shoved me out of the only place. I'd called home for 3 years. My stomach knotted as I counted the bills in my wallet. Barely enough for a night at a cheap motel, let alone anything else. Yet, something about that envelope made my fingers tremble, not from the cold, but from a strange, urgent curiosity. It wasn't addressed to me, at least not exactly. The handwriting was elegant, looping, almost familiar. I had no idea whose it was or why it had ended up in my mailbox, stuffed between unpaid notices and junk. But inside, there was a key. An old, heavy brass key with a small tag that read, Lot 47 Auction. That's when the first spark of hope flickered inside me, small but insistent. I didn't know what I'd find at that auction. I didn't know if I was chasing a dream or walking straight into a trap. But something about that key felt like a lifeline, like it was calling me out of the shadows of my broken life. I didn't hesitate. I couldn't. By the time I reached the small, run-down auction house at the edge of town, the sky was a bruised shade of gray, threatening rain. The lot was filled with old cars, trucks and machinery, all rusted, broken, forgotten. My heart sank. This was my 1-27 gamble. One chance to turn nothing into maybe something. The auctioneer's voice boomed, but it was muffled through the rain and my own racing thoughts. Cars were being sold like cheap furniture, their past lives irrelevant to the bidders. When Lot 47 came up, my pulse thudded painfully in my chest. It was a car, old, dust-covered, rust creeping along its edges like veins. The paint was chipped, faded, and peeling. The tires looked like they hadn't rolled in decades. I raised my hand, the auctioneer's gavel hovering above the podium. Do I hear 100? 110? My voice was barely a whisper, and yet it carried through the damp air. My 127 was all I could spare. The gavel slammed. My hand shook. My stomach dropped. I had won. Alone, I stood staring at the car, the key heavy in my pocket. It wasn't just a vehicle, it was a puzzle, a doorway, and maybe, just maybe, the answer to a life that had felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I knelt, ran my hand along the dusty hood, and imagined peeling back the layers of years gone by. That's when I noticed it, the first hint that this car wasn't ordinary. A small, faded sticker under the windshield wiper, almost invisible. It read, Property of M.R., 1985. 1985, 38 years ago. Whoever M.R. was, their story had ended here, buried in dust and rust. But why had this key, this car, chosen me? I had no idea, and yet the tiny whisper of destiny made me open the driver's door. Inside, the smell hit me, musty, metallic, tinged with gasoline and old leather. Sunlight caught on something glinting in the footwell. My heart leapt. I reached down and pulled out a small, rectangular object wrapped in yellowing paper. My fingers shook. It was a letter. And my name wasn't on it. But the handwriting, I froze. It was the same handwriting as the envelope that brought me here, the words inside. They were a confession, a secret, something hidden since 1985. And it wasn't just a story, it was a message, directed at someone I never expected. Me. I sat there in the driver's seat, rain dripping from the cracked roof, my hands trembling as I unfolded the paper. The first line made my chest tighten. If you're reading this, the world has already moved on, but the truth cannot be buried forever. I had been broken, abandoned, and alone. But suddenly I realized this wasn't just about the car. It was about uncovering something much bigger, a secret that could change everything I thought I knew about my life. And my family? I looked around the lot. Rust, decay, forgotten dreams. And yet, in my hands, I held the beginning of something extraordinary. Something terrifying. something that could either save me or destroy me. The rain picked up, drumming against the car roof. My mind raced. Did I dare follow this path? Did I dare unlock the past, knowing it could reveal truths I wasn't ready for? Or was this just another mirage in a life full of broken promises? I turned the key in the ignition. The engine groaned, coughing to life after decades of silence. And in that sound, raw and sputtering, I heard possibility. The first step had been taken, and I had no idea where it would lead. The engine rattled like it had 100 stories to tell, each vibration running up through my hands and into my chest. I gripped the steering wheel, the faded leather rough beneath my fingers, and felt a surge of something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. But it was fragile. Fragile like the cracked windshield before me, like the life I was trying to piece together. I didn't have a plan, only a key, a letter, and a car that smelled of dust and forgotten time. I drove aimlessly at first, letting the grey streets blur past, until I found myself outside the city limits. Fields stretched for miles, wet and glistening under the drizzle, and the horizon felt endless, both terrifying and liberating. I finally pulled over at an abandoned gas station. I needed to read the letter again, carefully this time. The handwriting danced across the paper, precise and deliberate, like every word had been weighed against decades of silence. There is more in the car than meets the eye. What you seek is not metal and rust, it is truth, hidden where only the desperate will look. My pulse quickened. Truth, hidden, desperate, that was me. I was desperate, and somehow that made me worthy of discovering whatever secret lay here. I started rummaging through the car methodically, under the seats, in the glove compartment, inside the trunk. Each discovery was a small thrill, an old set of tools, faded photographs, a crumpled map with notes scribbled along the edges. The handwriting was the same, meticulous, urgent, almost obsessive. One photograph caught my attention. A young man stood next to this very car, smiling with an unguarded joy that seemed almost impossible in the faded grain of the image. His eyes, they reminded me of someone I couldn't place. The letter hadn't mentioned him, but something told me he was key to understanding this mystery. Hours passed. Rain streaked the windows, blurring the world outside into streaks of grey and green. My stomach growled, but I couldn't stop. Every object I found felt like a breadcrumb leading me deeper into a puzzle whose edges were unknown. Then I found it, a small rusted compartment hidden under the passenger seat. My heart leapt as I pried it open. Inside was a bundle wrapped in oil-stained cloth. Carefully, I unwrapped it. It was a collection of journals, each one brittle and yellowed, filled with notes in the same meticulous handwriting. There were sketches, lists, diagrams, even detailed instructions for something I didn't yet understand. But one page in particular made my breath catch, a ledger, listing numbers that seemed to correspond to money, accounts, locations. The deeper I dug, the more I realized I was dealing with something much bigger than I had imagined. This wasn't just a car, it was a vault of secrets. Secrets that someone had spent a lifetime protecting. Secrets that someone had hoped would never be found. And that's when I first felt it, the sense that I wasn't alone. A shadow moved outside the car, obscured by the rain. My first instinct was fear. My second was caution. Whoever was out there, I knew they weren't here to help me. I grabbed the letter and journals and stuffed them into my backpack. The rain was turning into a downpour, slicking the roads, turning the fields into rivers. I started the car again, praying it would hold together for just a few more miles. As I drove, I thought about what I was getting into. Whoever MR was, their life had been complicated, dangerous maybe. The handwriting, the hidden compartments, the meticulous records, it all pointed to someone trying to outsmart the world, leaving a trail only a determined soul could follow. I remembered my life before the eviction. The endless bills, the loneliness, the nights lying awake listening to neighbors, laughing homes I'd never see again. And yet, in that moment, sitting in a rusty old car with a backpack full of decades-old secrets, I felt alive. By the time I reached the edge of town, the rain had stopped. The clouds hung low, heavy and purple in the twilight. I found myself at the gates of an old industrial area, abandoned warehouses, broken fences, the ghosts of forgotten businesses. It was the perfect place for secrets to hide. And for someone like me, desperate and unmoored, it was perfect for discovery. I parked the car behind a crumbling warehouse and sat for a long moment, listening. My heartbeat was loud in the stillness. I unfolded the first journal again, scanning its pages. There was a diagram, an intricate map of some facility, precise coordinates and notes in the margins. Only the worthy will know where to look. Only the patient will understand. I realized then that patience was something I had been forced to develop out of necessity. Desperation had sharpened me. Every empty night, every cold curb, every day I went hungry, it had prepared me for this moment. But even as I felt a strange surge of confidence, a chill ran down my spine. I wasn't the only one searching. Whoever MR had been protecting this secret from, they would be watching. And if they were still around, they wouldn't hesitate to strike if I got too close. I closed the journal, zipped my backpack, and looked around. The warehouse loomed over me, its broken windows like black eyes staring back. Somewhere inside, the next clue waited. And deep down, I knew the moment I stepped through that threshold, nothing about my life would ever be the same. I took a deep breath and pushed open the rusted door. The smell of dust and decay hit me immediately, but beneath it, there was something else, something metallic, something alive, hidden in the shadows. I had no idea what I would find, and yet I couldn't turn back. The warehouse swallowed me in darkness, broken beams casting jagged shadows across the concrete floor. Every step echoed, a hollow reminder that I was utterly alone, or at least I hoped I was. The journals in my backpack felt impossibly heavy, not because of their weight, but because of the secrets they carried. Each page whispered a story of a life lived in silence, a life someone had hidden carefully from the world. I flicked on my flashlight, the beam slicing through the gloom. Rusted machinery lay scattered like the skeletons of forgotten giants. Broken glass crunched beneath my shoes, the sound sharp enough to make me flinch. My chest tightened. Whoever had left this trail, they hadn't wanted anyone to follow it. And yet, here I was, stepping into the labyrinth they had built. I found a doorway partially obscured by fallen beams. The diagram in the journal matched. The coordinates and measurements scribbled in neat, precise handwriting. My hands shook as I pried the debris aside, pushing the door open. The room beyond was smaller, dimly lit by a single flickering bulb. Dust floated like suspended time, a shimmering in the flashlight's beam. And then I saw it. A small wooden chest, carved and old, sitting in the corner. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. This had to be it, the next clue. I approached cautiously, wary of traps or alarms, though the building was old enough to have crumbled from neglect alone. The lock was intricate, brass and worn. I remembered the key from the envelope, trembling as I slid it in. It fit perfectly. Inside was a stack of photographs, letters, and another envelope marked with my initials, though I'd never seen it before. The handwriting was unmistakable. Mars. My fingers lingered over the envelope, a thrill and a chill battling in my chest. Slowly I opened it. The first letter was brief, almost a warning. If you're reading this, you've gone further than anyone else dared. But you must know the truth is dangerous. Some will stop at nothing to reclaim what belongs to them. Be careful. A shiver ran through me. I hadn't even seen the full scope of the secret, and already there were threats. Whoever MR had been hiding from, they were still out there, still watching. I sifted through the photographs next. Most were of the car, in different states of repair over decades. But one image caught my eye. A man, older than the one in the first photo, standing in front of a building I recognized from my city, a corporate office. I'd passed 100 times without thinking twice. There was a name scrawled on the back, Harrington Enterprises. Suddenly a realization hit me. This wasn't just a car or a personal secret. This was part of a larger game, something that could involve corporations, money, maybe even betrayal on a scale I wasn't prepared for. I could feel my pulse spike, my hands clammy. I sank to the floor, cradling the journals and letters. Every fiber of my being wanted to flee, to leave the warehouse and pretend none of this existed. And yet, the same desperate curiosity that had led me here pushed me forward. Hours passed. I cross-referenced notes from the journals, piecing together fragments of a story that had been kept hidden for decades. MR had been meticulous, brilliant even, hiding something immensely valuable. Not just cash, jewels, but knowledge, designs, perhaps even evidence of wrongdoings too dangerous for the public to know. And somehow it was tied to the very people who ran Harrington Enterprises. A noise outside startled me. Footsteps, deliberate and heavy. My heart froze. Whoever was approaching knew I was here. My mind raced. Did I have time to escape? Could I hide? Or was it too late? I shoved the journals into my backpack and backed toward the shadows. The warehouse had multiple exits, but only one led to the alley where the car was parked. I had no choice. I had to move silently like a ghost. I pressed myself against a pillar, listening as the footsteps grew louder, echoing through the metal and concrete. The figure emerged, a man in a black, raincoat, hat pulled low, moving with a predatory precision. He paused, sniffing the air, then turned and disappeared deeper into the warehouse. My stomach churned. This wasn't random. He knew I was here. I sprinted through the shadows, barely breathing, until I reached the side door. It was locked. My fingers fumbled with the key, the same key, the one that had opened the car and the chest, and it clicked. I slipped outside, rain soaking me instantly. The old car was just where I'd left it, headlights dimly reflecting in the puddles. I didn't wait. I threw myself into the driver's seat, turned the key, and the engine roared to life, sputtering but holding steady. My pursuer appeared at the doorway, face obscured by shadows, but I saw the glint of recognition in his posture. He wasn't just any stranger. He was connected to this secret, connected to the danger I had just uncovered. I floored it. Tires spun on the wet asphalt, rain spraying around me as I navigated back toward the main roads. The warehouse disappeared in the rearview mirror, but the weight of what I had found pressed down on me like a physical force. I had stumbled onto a mystery that could topple powerful people, and I had no idea if I was prepared for the consequences. Hours later, exhausted and soaked, I pulled into a dimly lit motel on the outskirts of the city. I spread the journals and letters across the bed, tracing connections, mapping out leads. The picture of the man outside Harrington Enterprises kept circling in my mind. This was bigger than a car, bigger than an auction. And one terrifying thought kept repeating in my mind. The moment I had turned the key in the warehouse door, I had stepped into a game that I could not walk away from. Somewhere out there, someone powerful was watching, and they weren't planning to let me uncover the truth without a fight. But even in the dark motel room, a flicker of determination burned inside me. I'd come too far. I had discovered too much. And no one, not even Harrington Enterprises, whoever they were, was going to take this away from me without a fight. The first night I lay awake, heart hammering, listening to the rain pattering against the window. The letter's words echoed in my mind. Only the patient will understand. Only the desperate will succeed. I was desperate, and I was ready. The next morning, the sky was a washed-out grey, the kind of light that makes everything look flat and hopeless. I pored over the journals again, tracing every scribble, diagram, and annotation. Each entry pulled me deeper into MR's world, a world of hidden accounts, secret blueprints, and shadowed deals that spanned decades. Every page hinted at something enormous, something worth protecting at all costs. I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't face this alone. I needed someone to help me, someone I could trust, or at least someone smart enough to navigate a maze like this. That's when I thought of my childhood friend, Eli. He'd always been brilliant with computers, able to hack, decrypt, and analyze things that I couldn't even begin to understand. If anyone could help me unravel these journals, it was him. I called him, my voice shaking as I explained the basics. No exaggeration, just the bare truth. A car, a key, a letter, a trail of secrets that could ruin someone very powerful. He didn't hesitate. Meet me at the old warehouse district. Bring the car. The drive there was tense, every glance in the rearview mirror making me flinch. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed, that someone or something was tracking me. The streets were eerily quiet, the kind of silence that always precedes chaos. Eli was waiting near an abandoned office building, laptop open, fingers flying across the keyboard as he pulled up maps, satellite images and historical property records. "Okay," he said, looking up, eyes wide. "This isn't just a car, Umair. Whoever MR was, They were covering something massive. Look at this. He pulled up a document buried deep in digital archives. It was a blueprint of a facility I didn't recognize, labeled only as Project Meridian. Notes in the margins were identical to the handwriting in the journals. This, Eli whispered, is what they were hiding. And from the looks of it, it's worth more than you can imagine. Money, tech, maybe both. I swallowed hard, the weight of reality settling on my shoulders. This wasn't just a mystery, it was dangerous. And the more I uncovered, the closer I got to people who wouldn't hesitate to stop me. We spent the next few hours cross-referencing coordinates, tracing ownership records, and decrypting fragments of MR's notes. Each discovery was another thread in a tangled web of deception, greed, and hidden truths. And then we found the first major clue, a ledger entry pointing to a hidden compartment inside, a warehouse owned by Harrington Enterprises. That's when it clicked. The connection between MR, the car, and the corporation that loomed over the city like a predator. This wasn't just about uncovering the past. It was about taking on someone with power, money, and resources I could only begin to imagine. I felt a familiar churn of fear, but it was laced with something new, determination. I had survived this long by following scraps of a secret left decades ago. I couldn't back down now, not when the answers were so close. We planned our move carefully. Eli would hack the security feeds while I drove the car into the warehouse district. Every step had to be precise. Mistake meant exposure, and exposure could mean everything I had risked would be gone in an instant. When we arrived, the area was deserted, the warehouses looming like forgotten giants. I parked the car in a shadowed alley and crept toward the building marked in the ledger. Inside, dust and silence stretched endlessly, broken only by the faint hum of an old ventilation system. The hidden compartment was clever, camouflaged in the floorboards beneath a stack of crates. I knelt, heart hammering, and pried it open. Inside was a small metal case, reinforced and locked with a combination I recognized from the journals. I whispered the numbers aloud, heart racing as the lock clicked. Inside the case were documents, old hard drives, and a leather-bound notebook. The documents contained detailed financial transactions, contracts, and proof of cover-ups, clear evidence that Harrington Enterprises had been siphoning money, hiding assets, and erasing anyone who got too close. I felt a surge of anger mixed with adrenaline. This was it, the proof that MR had been safeguarding, the very reason people had tried to bury this secret. And now it was in my hands. But then I heard it, footsteps, close, fast, deliberate. I froze, clutching the case. My heart pounded in my ears. Whoever was coming knew exactly where we were. And from the sound, I knew it wasn't just one person. Eli's voice came through my earpiece, low and urgent. "Get out of there, now!" I grabbed the case, sprinted toward the exit, and saw figures emerge from the shadows. Security, or maybe something worse. My mind raced. The car was a block away. If I could reach it, maybe. I ran. Rain had started again, slicking the concrete. They shouted, pursued, but I made it to the alley and jumped into the car. The engine roared, sputtered, then steadied. I floored it. Tires screeched, water spraying as I wove through the narrow streets. Behind me, shadows chased. Eli guided me, voice tense but steady. "Take the left at the next junction, then the old railway. You'll lose them there." I obeyed, every nerve on fire. The car skidded across puddles, narrowly avoiding a collision with an abandoned delivery truck. The shadows behind us faltered. The lead figure swore, gesturing to others, but we were already moving faster than they could react. By the time we reached a safe house on the outskirts of the city, drenched and breathless, I finally let myself breathe. The case was intact. The journals were intact. And though fear still lingered, there was something stronger now, resolve. I had stepped into a world of secrets, danger, and powerful enemies. But I had also stepped into a story that was bigger than myself, bigger than my broken past. And somewhere deep inside I knew the next move would be critical. The stakes would only get higher, and the truth I sought would not be given freely. But for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to fight. The safe house was quiet, dimly lit, and smelled faintly of old wood and dust. I spread the documents and journals across the table. the weight of their secrets pressing down on me like a living thing. Eli sat across from me, exhausted but focused, scanning the financial records on his laptop. "Umair," he said, voice low, "this isn't just proof. This is a roadmap to corruption on a scale I've never seen. Harrington Enterprises isn't just a company, they're a fortress. And they've buried everything so deeply, most people wouldn't even know where to start." I ran my fingers over the leather-bound notebook. Every page, every note was a testament to MR's brilliance and caution. Someone had spent decades hiding this, keeping it safe from those who would exploit it. And now it was mine to protect or destroy. We spent hours cross-referencing, mapping out contacts, financial flows, and secret locations. Every line we traced, every pattern we uncovered, brought the scale of the conspiracy into sharp focus. Harrington Enterprises had been manipulating, stealing and erasing evidence for decades. And the person I had seen in the photograph, the man standing outside their office, that was only the tip of the iceberg. But as night fell, the danger became real. A car engine roared outside. Shadows moved across the curtains. Someone had found us. Fear lanced through me, but I pushed it down. I wasn't the broken, evicted kid from 3 weeks ago anymore. I had information, leverage, and allies. Eli leaned close. "We need a plan." "You're not just holding evidence. You're holding the power to expose them. And they'll come after you with everything they have." I nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. The world outside was a storm of greed and power, and I had just stepped into the eye of it. But I also had the car, the letters, the journals, and a clarity I had never known. The next days were a blur of careful moves. We contacted journalists anonymously, sent encrypted files, and prepared for a confrontation that we both knew was inevitable. Harrington Enterprises wasn't going to let decades of secrets slip away without a fight. Then the call came. A corporate lawyer, voice smooth and menacing, demanding a meeting. They wanted the notebooks. They wanted the documents. And they were willing to negotiate, but only if I came alone. I looked at Eli, my pulse hammering. "This is it," I said. The showdown. The meeting took place in a high-rise office overlooking the city. The sky was grey, reflecting the steel and glass of the towers. Across the table sat the lawyer and a figure. I immediately recognized the man from the photographs. Older, sharper, his eyes calculating. But there was a flicker of recognition when he saw me. "Umair," he said, voice even, almost courteous. "I hear you found our little secret." I didn't flinch. "It's not a secret anymore, and you can't hide it." Negotiations were tense, a delicate dance of leverage and bluffing. They offered money, threats, and carefully chosen reassurances, but I held firm. The notebooks, the journals, the documents, they weren't just items. They were proof, evidence, and I had learned something crucial from MR's meticulous notes. Courage, patience, and knowledge could outmaneuver even the most powerful opponents. Hours passed. Then finally the breakthrough, the lawyer calculating. Realized they couldn't win without facing public exposure. Harrington Enterprises had to back down. They withdrew their demands. I walked out of the office with the notebooks and documents intact, a victory born not of violence, but of strategy, courage, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Back at the safe house, I collapsed into a chair, exhausted but triumphant. The rain outside had stopped, leaving the city wet and gleaming under the streetlights. Eli clapped me on the shoulder. "You did it! You actually did it!" I looked at the old car parked outside, rusted and battered, and felt a surge of gratitude. It had led me here, carried me through danger, and revealed a path I never could have imagined. The car wasn't just metal, it was the key to transformation, the bridge between a broken past and a powerful future. As I sat there, the journals spread around me. I realized something deeper. Life would always throw you into chaos, poverty, and fear. But sometimes, in the cracks of despair, there's an opportunity, a chance to find courage, uncover hidden truths, and rewrite your story. I closed the final notebook and smiled, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. The world hadn't been fair, but justice, small, patient, relentless, had a way of catching up. And as I looked at the car, rain dripping from its roof, I whispered to myself, sometimes being kicked out with nothing is exactly what it takes to find everything that matters. If you've ever felt lost, desperate, or invisible, remember this: courage, curiosity, and patience can change everything. And maybe, just maybe, the keys to your future are hidden in the most unexpected places. If this story inspired you, or if you've ever found something that changed your life in ways you never imagined, comment below. I'd love to hear your story. And don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable, real-life stories that prove truth is stranger than fiction.